Welcome back to the crypto channel, boys and gals. Welcome in. I hope all of y'all are having a fantastic day as always. My name is eHEX Crypto. We dive deep into some technical analysis, planning the 5 P's of proper preparation, preventing poor performance, along with also diving into the rich at heart ecosystem of HEX, PulseChain, PulseX, and the incentive token, of course, as well, which we're going to be diving into some of these charts today. What's important to understand is the month of November has tended to be pretty damn bullish when it comes to crypto in general. It's important to understand this because we're coming up into November of 2024 and what that could potentially mean, even leading into November of 2025. When we actually dive into this chart right here, what I'm noticing right from the jump is it tends to be August seems to be the mid-market cycle kind of indicator. It's letting you know that the market's kind of going sideways for now, and we're about to enter what's called the red year, which is every 4 years in crypto, folks. This is 2013, 2017, 2021, and it will be 2025. I want to give a shout out to CryptoCon for this data as well. But you can see the mid cycle has basically ended up being the exact same thing every single time right before the next red year, which is massively bullish for crypto. We have August of 2012, August of 2016, August of 2020, and August of 2024. We know what happened just recently with the month of September. It is going to be possibly a red month. It tends to be a pretty red month in crypto in general. So when you're looking at some of these charts and indicators, it's kind of good to know. But what's important to know and understand about November is it tends to actually mark the bottom on these charts. In fact, if we were to just take a look over here at Bitcoin, for example, I went ahead and pulled up the Bitcoin chart going all the way back to even the launch of 2009/2010. And what's important to understand is the month of November and what it actually tends to show or tends to entail. Going all the way back to 2009 and 10 over here, you can see that basically was showing to be the bottom of the market. We get into the mid-cycle area over here in 2010, going into 2011, where we actually once again hit the bottom of the market right here in 2011. So as we actually continue, November seems to be a very important month, whether it just be a mid-cycle bottom at this point in time, or even some some cycle bottoms in general, going all the way back to cycle tops as well. So what's important to understand is through all of these different charts right here, you can see Bitcoin has done phenomenally, or it's done something every single time in the month of November. Looking in 2014, it was damn close to the bottom at that point in time. Going into 2015 over here, you can see we basically were at the same point in time in 2014, looking at these two charts right now. And then it actually ended up being basically a mid-cycle bottom right here, going into what is 2017, where damn near was the top of the market once again. So whenever you're actually pulling all of these data and all of this information up, when it is a bullish year for the cycle, meaning 2013, 2017, 2021, going into 2025, what I'm noticing right away is when it is not a cycle year for the top, it tends to be either a mid-cycle bottom or even a true close enough to the cycle bottom. If you were to be purchasing, in fact, or selling every single time it was November, you'd probably be doing pretty damn well in crypto, as a matter of fact. Even over here in 2018, you saw this was basically the bottom of the market. Going into 2019 was damn near the mid-cycle curve and correction. And even leading into 2021, once again, we basically have just maintained this mid-cycle bottom. And we then rally into the final explosion of 2021, which again, put it at the all-time high for Bitcoin, okay? So you can see, looking at all of these charts, even over here in 2022, once again, the bottom of the market was in 23. We have a mid-cycle correction over here. I'm assuming we're probably going to see another mid-cycle correction going into November of 2024, probably around this similar top area. So this 74K, 70K, somewhere in that range would be my guess. But again, the market's pretty crazy. What's important to understand is when you actually look at charts like this. As a matter of fact, we go into the red year, folks. This is going into the red year. So right now we are in 16, 20, 24, the 4-year cycle. And what tends to happen is when we get into a red year, that is massively bullish when it comes to crypto. You can see it was massively bullish over here in 2013. You can see it was massively bullish in 2017, massively bullish once again in 2021. And I'm expecting this 4-year cycle to continue being massively bullish, possibly topping out November of 2025, or at least being pretty damn close to the top around that time frame. So this is why it's important to understand looking at all of these charts and how it actually ends up playing out. This is why we look at November to be kind of a leading month indicator to show us what could possibly happen. Crypto does, in fact, operate on cycles, and it's definitely fascinating how these cycles tend to repeat. Of course, one month in particular standing out above all else, and that is November for me. So, whenever I look at the actual chart right now, very, very interesting stuff to see. Now, shifting into the RH ecosystem, we're seeing a lot more interest beginning to build up in PulseChain, PulseX, and HEX, especially as these projects continue to develop. Looking at the 1-day chart right here for the PulseChain ecosystem, this tends to be a pretty good indicator as people are beginning to slowly build back in this position of what is possible going forward into the future for the month of November. Now, I actually have a fascinating little sheet that I put together. We didn't quite get this set up just yet because, again, we're limited on the data that we actually have available to us as well. But with this data, what it shows is, again, October tending to be pretty damn bullish, or even you can just say Q3 tending to be pretty damn bullish. So this is a chart history of all the monthly averages of what happened during 2023 and 2024. Mind you, May of 2023 is when PulseChain first launched. So you can see September was actually a pretty bullish month. October still being pretty bullish over here, and going into the end of the year in November and December, very bullish. But mainly the key factor in here was going to be January and February. So over the last several months, what you tend to notice over the year is Q3 and Q1 tend to be pretty damn bullish. We actually know what happened around March. We actually seen what went down. Back in July, we had SEC stuff, allegations come out. So I'm not too surprised when I'm looking at some of these data and charts and the history of. But whenever you're actually planning on what could potentially be possible going forward in the future, this is massively, massively bullish in my opinion as to what you're actually seeing. And again, I share this with all of my Patreon members over at patreon.com/ATXcrypto. And you can actually dive into some more details as to what we actually have going on over there as well. But this is where I see when I'm looking at the actual charts for PulseChain right now, a quick little technical analysis over here. We are actually diving into a situation where once again, we're actually beginning to possibly hit that local low at this point in time, or even the bottom at this point in time. Now, again, the month of September in crypto tends to be pretty bearish, y'all, just in general. So keep that in mind going forward. We want to get out of September going into Q3 or Q4 of 2000. Q3 tends to be pretty bearish in the month of crypto, or the quarter of crypto. And then going forward, we want to be looking at Q4 as to what we're actually looking at. That's October, November, and December to finally close out the year and what this could actually be. So looking at the PulseChain chart right now, what I'm seeing right away is that we are finally beginning to break out of a trend that we've basically been in all the way going back to March of 2024. You can see it's been on a downward trend this entire time, and it's finally beginning to actually break out of that trend. So should it continue breaking out of this trend, we're going to be met with some resistance at all of the dashed lines. You can see all the dates or you can see all the prices on the left side for what those dashed lines actually entail for the prices, but we're definitely going to be met with some resistance at each of those levels. They were once support as one point in time. They then become resistance as the price is going to appreciate, going back up in the price. So keeping all of that in mind, we do have to get past several levels that are going to be, again, restraining us or holding us back from just breaking out. One thing I can point out in the past, though, is we have seen times where it does a 45% move in a simple 10-day span of time. Which does happen extremely fast, y'all. So some of these items can, in fact, just break out where we get a 218% increase in just a matter of 12 days. Again, this can definitely happen, but you can see the time when this started really happening. It was actually in January of 2024. So that was at the beginning of the year. You can see kind of how the monthly ended up closing going into some of these other items over here. But look at all the times where it actually has essentially done a 100% gain or a 2x in the span of just 10 days alone. You can once again see each time this has done this, it's been a very short period of time. So while it can be a portion and look at the chart and you say, man, I just don't know if it can happen, folks, these moves happen extremely fast. So just from a standpoint of finally breaking out of this current downtrend, this is always good to see. Looking at Pulse MACD, we are wanting to flip this bullish once again as well. You can see that blue line crossing above the orange line right here, along with the moving above the MACD, moving into a more bullish territory. So it is wanting to actually flip bullish over here for what that is. Looking at PulseX, we're in a similar situation as well when we look at the PulseX chart. This has actually been a little bit more bullish overall because again, it didn't get hit as hard, but even here, you can see this current trend line that we're actually forming. We are going to be needing to break above these prices right here. You can see the prices are wanting to start retesting it. We are going to be met with several levels of resistance. You can see all the times where we've already hit one of the lines of resistance right now. As a matter of fact, you can see we met a nice level of support being held at this 401546 price right here. We're now going to be met with some resistance at the 401789 price. Always interesting to see, but once again, we are definitely wanting to break out of this downward trend and continue to actually break through and surpass all of these previous levels of resistance that we're now going to be met with. First one being 402122, next one being 402888. Okay, those are going to be levels that I'm going to be paying attention to should the price want to fall back down, because when you are met up in a downward trend, it does like to do this, where it actually wants to play out and figure out which way the price wants to go, whether it be up or down. That's going to be something we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. Again, September tends to be a little bit more on the bearish side, so keep that in mind for what it is. And just recently, as a matter of fact, you can see it's already done essentially a 20% pump in the last 2 days. So it is wanting to get out of this zone, out of this range right here. We are falling, basically to the resistance level or support level that I would see it being held at right now, which is nice support around this level. And again, we are now going to be met with resistances at the 786 level, which again, I'll just draw quickly on the screen. We're going to be met with resistance at the 618 level and even at the 0.5 level as well. These are definitely going to be levels to be paying attention to when prices are wanting to break out of here. However, as it stands right now, it's definitely wanting to continue this, upward move right now. Even on the stock RSI sitting as it stands right now, we are still slightly below the overbought territory. So that is a good bullish indicator. Things are wanting to stay on the bullish zone as well. So when I'm looking at all of these charts, it's a nice little indicator of what we're seeing and what's happening overall. So again, talking about the PulseX price, the project is closely tied to PulseChain. Talking about the HEX price as well, it remains one of the most watched projects in this ecosystem. On the PulseChain side, you can see HEX trading at the 2041 right now at this point. Even right now, I believe the current price sitting at 2041 right now. So at this point in time, that's where we can see it's definitely struggling against several resistance levels. But if we can break above 2 zeros and a 6, we might begin to start seeing some bullish action as well. And again, lastly, checking out the HEX over on Ethereum side right now, this is definitely one of those charts that have been beaten pretty badly, just whether it be the overall tweets, the overall sentiment of the ecosystem, how it once was and where it once was. we have now hit several different levels at this point in time. Now current price sitting at 20116 at this point, or 1137 at this point. We definitely are going to be met with many resistance levels going forward and going higher from here. So as I'm looking at the actual chart, this is what I'm noticing. Even on the stock RSI, it's wanting to curve back down a little bit. Again, September can be one of the more bearish months. So keep that in mind when you actually are using and looking at some of this data as well. It's important to understand that where that actually is and what's going on. So as we head into November, folks, history tells us that we could be in for a very interesting ride. There's definitely signs for both Bitcoin and, of course, the RH ecosystem showing signs of life, and there's stuff to look forward to. So keep that in mind. And it's not just about predicting the market perfectly, because no one's going to be able to make sure that that perfectly happens, but being prepared for what is to come. So again, you know, I said this in the past, but it will all be good in the end. And if it's not all good, it's not the end, right? So if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below on where you think the price of Bitcoin and PulseChain could be heading. And let's keep this conversation going. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be.